Welcome back. You're watching Newsx. I'm Rishabh Gulati. Well, the global center stage right now is the city of Tianjin, which is a couple of hours from Beijing, where the 2025 Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit is taking place. And it is a summit that is taking place at scale. The countries attending Belarus, India, Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Russia, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Mongolia, Turkmenistan, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Cambodia, Egypt, Myanmar, the Maldives, Nepal, Turkey, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia and Vietnam, including the President of Belarus, the Indian Prime Minister, the President of Iran, the President of Kazakhstan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, the President of Kyrgyzstan, the President of Russia, the President of Tajikistan, the President of Uzbekistan and the Prime Minister of Nepal. And all of them are holding bilateral meetings, most of them currently with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. My colleague and Senior Executive Editor Megha Sharma is in Tianjin. She's been watching the developments taking place. Megha, it's a flurry of back-to-back bilaterals. Right now, it's Xi Jinping meeting with the Myanmaris, the Nepalese, the Kazakhs and beyond. What's happening?
Right, it is back-to-back bilateral meetings that are happening, as you already mentioned. It is also important to note that tomorrow Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also going to be holding a bilateral with the acting president of Myanmar. This is as per sources. So there are three bilaterals that are most definitely going to happen, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi taking the first one with Xi Jinping. The second one is going to be with President Putin, and the third one with the Myanmarese acting president. It is also important to note that the UN Secretary General is also present at the event. He is going to be part of the SCO Summit. Then his deputy Secretary General is going to be participating in the victory parade that takes place on the 3rd of September. So there are in fact more of these countries, including Russia, Iran, Myanmar, South Korea. The heads of states of all these countries are going to flank Xi Jinping when that victory parade happens. But for now, of course, it is going to be a flurry of activities taking place. It's already happening right now in the evening as we speak. It's just the fag end of the day now. So the bilaterals are going to now culminate. Tomorrow is a new dawn. And with that, we start with the fresh set of bilaterals. Of course, the key focus point for India that remains is the Prime Minister's bilateral. He's going to start his day at 12 p.m. local time, Beijing time over here, and he'll start it with a bilateral with Xi Jinping.
Okay, yeah, and that's that's the one. If you're sitting in India, that's the one you're watching, right? What happens when Xi Jinping and Modi meet for the first time in a better part of 8 years? Is it something substantive? Many would argue something substantive has already happened. Others will say that no, this is India having its multilateral associations as it has always had, and it is what it is. He was just in Japan, and Japan ain't no friend of China at this present moment geopolitically. So things continue roughly as normal or as abnormally as they could possibly be in geopolitics right now. Megha, we'll let you carry on with these developments taking place. In fact, breaking news coming my way. I've just been told that Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has landed in Tianjin, accompanied by the Pakistani Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar. He is expected to be meeting with Xi Jinping in a bilateral that is taking place, that is going to formalize CPEC 2.0. Now you can well imagine, as you're watching visuals of Shehbaz Sharif landing and being greeted by the Chinese delegation welcoming him, that CPEC 2.0 is not something that India is going to be swinging in the daisies with as great news. So these are fundamentally complicated conversations that are taking place at the same place at the same time. So now joining us on the broadcast to help us break this down, to help understand it better, to balance it out, Patikrit is joining us, Dr. Sharad Kohli is with us, Scott Faulkner is back with us, and Gautam Mukherjee is with us as well. Mr. Faulkner, let me come back to you now to take this up, because we've been discussing India and the United States. Let's discuss China for a second. Economically, things in China have not been the best in the past couple of years. We know that there is a population decline that is taking place in China. At the same time, the Chinese have had global goals of having a non-dollar based economy, of their own position as the head of the global order. They don't seek to be equal to the United States. They seek to replace the United States. How do you now observe the Chinese?
Well, I think that what we're going to be seeing over the next few days, and certainly the pageantry that greeted Modi when he arrived, it's probably less than meets the eye. China is going to try to position itself as the center of the world, center of the universe in essence. And they are, in essence, hosting about a good portion of what otherwise would be a United Nations General Assembly. And so therein lies the devil in the details, that yes, a lot of countries are in China. Yes, a lot of heads of state are in China, but is really SCO have any real agenda beyond ingratiating China? Is there really any policies that are going to come out of this? Is there any agreements that are going to come out of this, as opposed to the pageantry and the photo ops of China looking like they're the center of the world? And so that's going to be the great challenge for China, is there going to be any there beyond the photo op? And we're going to have to see.
I agree with you, because in terms of SCO agenda, difficult to see something. In terms of a declaration being meaningful, also difficult to see something. But in terms of what this is China trying to prove a point that these are the people we can put together in one day, many of whom will be attending that parade in Beijing in 3 days' time. The Indian Prime Minister Scott Faulkner has chosen not to attend that parade. He was in Japan right before this, and he'll be returning before the parade starts, and that is also not devoid of significance.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the meeting in Japan was extremely important, because both Japan has announced a number of major investments in India, but also the great initiative for moon exploration, especially looking for water on the moon. The joint effort between Japan and India is extremely important for science and for the world. And so the fact that Modi went to Japan first, and of course Modi and Japan are two parts of the Quad, along with Australia and the United States, dealing with the Indo-Pacific. And so I think that was a great signal that he put forward, that India is not going to kowtow to China, that India is an equal, that India is a player in its own right in the world, and that they're going to set their own course.
Okay, all right. Just stay with me. More developments meanwhile coming in, because the bilaterals are happening back to back in Tianjin as we speak. Xi Jinping, Chinese president, has now met with the Prime Minister of Egypt, Mustafa Madbouli. This has happened at the sidelines of this summit meeting. They both called it that their associations are the best in history. They're talking about more investments and improvements in diplomatic relations. That is all par for context. And global peace and stability. Egypt, remember, has increasingly been seeing Chinese investments coming into Egypt. You've seen a lot of Chinese investments coming into Iran. Many people would argue that under sanctions, Iran has been subsisting largely because of Chinese money that is coming in. If you see the same happening in Egypt, and of course Egypt borders Israel and Gaza, for a point of information. Let me get in Pathikrit here. Pathikrit, it is what it is. This SCO summit in Beijing, this is not an SCO summit happening in Central Asia. This is SCO summit happening near Beijing. Okay, it's going to be culminated with this grand military parade celebrating, the Chinese efforts during the Great Wars. This is Xi Jinping saying he's back. Okay, after the COVID isolation, he's back, and the Indians are back with him, at least in some context. What's the message Xi Jinping is trying to send out?
Well, I think the president of China may have its own.
Yes.
The president of China may have its own messages to give. I mean, that is something as a host he will try to do. Some would get fancied about it, some might ignore it. But the larger issue is that, yes, you can have major countries of the world from Asia or other parts of the world can meet sans the West. That is also a message. So, I mean, I don't know how important or less important SCO is, but I believe it's as important this meeting as a G7 meeting is. Let's not presume that everything has to pivot around the West all the time. Yes, the Western society, the Western countries kept on fighting with each other for a millennium, and still they came together, especially the European ones. I think we have our own differences within Asia. There are major areas of divergence between India and China. Same goes between India and many other countries, but I think there are areas of convergence as well. And therefore, we would come and meet. I think the pivot toward in the 21st century has been moving towards Asia. But if there were certain doubts among anybody's mind, I think Donald Trump played a very critical role in removing those doubts and bringing everyone together. See, this would have been just another meeting. Nobody would have bothered much. Prime Minister of India may not even have gone there. But all thanks to America, all thanks to America's tactics, all thanks to President Trump, that my way or highway, that you have to deal.
Yeah, but they can go ahead. Yes.
That you have to deal with US, or else we will do the needful with you. I think what you see in this summit is that there's a certain amount of frustration among many countries, which is bringing them together in spite of many differences they have with each other. I think that's the focal point.
Okay, Pratik, stay with me because I want to put this information out there and we'll put it out on our screens. This is an article that has just been published in the New York Times. I'm not the biggest fan of the New York Times because some of their reporting remains questionable. I'm not saying that everybody is not allowed to report whatever they want. So am I. But in this effect, I can confirm the context of the information that they have published. They have written that a telephonic conversation took place between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Donald Trump, in which PM Modi told Trump, quote unquote, in no uncertain terms that the issue was settled bilaterally between India and Pakistan with no role of the United States. They are reporting this conversation took place on the 17th of June. And the two leaders have not spoken since. I can confirm that this information that they've been published in the New York Times is indeed absolutely accurate, something that we've been discussing here for some point of time. PM Modi, as far as sources at a very senior level have told me, told Donald Trump in no uncertain terms, you had nothing to do with the ceasefire agreement. Yet he's non-stop been talking about how he delivered the ceasefire agreement. In fact, he's recently claimed that he threatened India with more tariffs. That's why we agreed to a ceasefire, when nothing could be further from the truth. And that is the existence which we are going to have to deal with. All right, more breaking developments meanwhile coming in. This is Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, shaking hands with Chinese President Xi Jinping. He has said that China will always be a trustworthy partner of the United Nations. He has also said that China is willing to deepen cooperation with the UN, support the UN in playing a central role in international affairs, and shoulder the responsibility of safeguarding world peace and promoting development and prosperity. Sharad Kohli. Now, let me pick up the larger context before I come to you with some specifics. Larger context is Xi Jinping is doing what he's always wanted to do, and you and I have been discussing this non-stop for 6 years, through COVID, post-COVID, now into this current year, that Xi Jinping, who was in isolation during COVID, wants to come back into the world stage with a bang. This is what this summit is for. Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the UN, is there, okay, and we know that you and I have deep suspicions of the role that the Chinese are playing in influencing UN agencies like the WHO and whatnot. In any other given context, we would be very suspicious of this summit. But in this context, we are there. What has changed?
Good evening, Rishabh, and to the viewers of Newsx. I think the common thread which runs and the common thought which runs throughout the summit, when the two leaders meet or when many leaders meet, I think Donald Trump is the common thought. I thought this particular summit will be sort of overshadowed by Donald Trump's thoughts and the tariffs. Although there are a lot of agendas to be taken up, there may be a lot of issues, there may be bilateral issues. But I think this particular summit, if you ask me, the main agenda would be tariffs. And I think if all the leaders are meeting this backdrop, obviously the discussion would be about tariffs, about bilateral trade, number one. Number two, we have to take China with a pinch of caution, because you cannot take China for granted. We all know China's policy of expansionism. We know what China has been doing in Doklam and Galwan, years ago. We have come a long way. When our NSA Ajit Doval traveled to that place, then Mr. Wang Yi came to India, and now Prime Minister is there. I think we should not forget, Rishabh, we've got $100 of deficit with them, and 3 items they almost strangulated us. Tunnel boring machines, fertilizers, and rare earth magnets. There are a lot of industries in India which came to a standstill. Obviously, they've opened it now. But if that is how China deals, I think we'll have to be very careful. We'll have to, take each step very, very carefully in dealing with China. And as you rightly said, the equation at the summit is very complicated. There is Pakistan there. There is CPEC discussion going there. There is China and Russia friendship there. There is India and Russia friendship there. There is this newly established Hindi-Chini Bhai, a friendship which is coming up. So it's a very, very complicated affair out there.
Yeah.
I think the atmosphere at the multilateral, Rishabh, will be totally different from the atmosphere at the bilateral.
Yeah,
talks.
but this is the point, right? I mean, if we are
I've never seen a summit.
Yeah, if we are reasonably suspicious of what Xi Jinping and Muizzu of Maldives are discussing, if we are reasonably suspicious of what Xi Jinping and Oli of Nepal are discussing, we should be. None of what they are discussing is in the Indian interest. None of the conversation between Shehbaz Sharif and Xi Jinping is in the Indian interest. So we should be reasonably suspicious on these matters. But hey presto, here we are. Here's a bit of interesting development which just happened. Sharad Kohli, I'll be taking your views on this. Brazilian President Lula da Silva has formally announced that they are commencing consultations on reciprocal tariffs on the United States after the US levied 50% tariffs on Brazilian goods. The process is expected to take 7 months and will allow Brazil to retaliate with trade restrictions, intellectual property restrictions as a response to the 50% tariffs. So the Brazilians are taking a stand on it, and they've said not only will we absorb your tariffs, we will impose tariffs on you in return. Now, a percentage of that is showmanship, but there is a principle involved also here which is becoming increasingly complex, Sharad Kohli.
With Brazil being there, Russia, India, China being there, well, probably South Africa may be the only country which is missing as part of the BRICS, the main 5 BRICS, I think it will be worthwhile to talk of BRICS currency, to give some more sleepless nights to Donald Trump for that matter. And I think India, obviously Brazil will try and push India to also levy reciprocatory tariffs on the US, because we are both riding the same boat of 50%. So it's as I said, it's a very interesting proposition. And if Brazil puts that tariff on America, I think we'll start getting those feelers that could India be the next. But India is, I'm sure, not going to do that as of now. We have our own way of handling things. We will not stoop down, Rishabh, to...
Okay, no, we are very clear on this. We have our own way of handling things. There is an issue where we have to now safeguard trade interests. If we have to safeguard trade interests, we also have to understand that China is a large trade partner, and we have a lot of trade discussions needed with China, not for the reasons that they hold the global economy to a hostage. And let's face it, they are holding the Americans to hostage, which is why they are facing only 30% tariffs, despite the fact that the Russian economy is pretty much working on Chinese investment and trade and purchases of oil, not because of India. The lesson seems to be that you have to have the ability in the real politics of the world to hold other people to hostage. That's the only way you actually do the art of the deal. Let me get Gautam Mukherjee into this conversation. Gautamji, so here we are in the most cyclonically complex, double pendulum chaotic meeting that is going on, because it is what it is. This is Xi Jinping announcing that post the COVID, persona non grata that he had become, he's back, okay? And he's back, and this is the epicenter. It's Beijing. A lot of these guys are coming, including India, and many of them will be attending this grand parade in Beijing, and that's the next focal point of the world. That's the statement, and that's not a statement that makes us really happy, does it?
Well, it's nothing to do with us. If Xi can manage a grandstand like that, and it actually leads to some substance, well, good luck to him. What is important from the Indian point of view is that we are going to a 21st century concert of Europe. As you said, it's complex, as a number of the others have said, it's complex, but it offers a fresh opportunity to enter into bilateral talks with a number of the Central Asians, with Myanmar, with Japan. We've just been and tried to tighten it up, the relationship. The disappointing thing with Japan has always been that they're half European, half Asian, and always reluctant to invest heavily into India. But perhaps the only difference was when Shinzo Abe was there, and their prime ministers tend to last 6 months. So continuity is a problem. However, all the optics and the noises are in order. Who knows? Things might get better bilaterally with Japan in terms of trade, commerce, defense, etc. Here, certainly we'll get on very well with Russia. We will make progress without a doubt on the one-on-one with Xi. We need not be overly worried about those who are trying their own machinations. I think we're going to make progress, and that's what counts. And this is really as a counterpoint to Trump's madness and a adjunct to what is going to happen more and more in BRICS and with the global
South.
South.
I'm going to try to boil it down. So what are we expecting to happen in the Modi-Xi meeting tomorrow? The reasonable expectations would be no miracles, but the basics like direct flights between India and China, which has been suspended since the beginning of COVID, to restart. Okay, that the Chinese committing certain investments and corrections in trade balances by making more purchases from India in return for access to Indian markets where a lot of Chinese products are still sold. The Chinese mobile phones, the BYD cards are still sold, even though we have restrictions on TikTok and Huawei and others in a more strategically or tactically sensitive sphere. Hold your thought. More breaking developments. Iran's ambassador to China has now issued a statement on his president's visit to the country. He says that, I quote, SCO member states have achieved fruitful cooperations since Iran officially became a member state of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in 2023. It has been actively cooperating with relevant countries in various fields within the SCO framework and has achieved fruitful results, unquote. This is Abdul Reza Rahmani Fazli, Iranian ambassador to China, which he's put out in an interview that he's given right before his president meets with Xi Jinping. So, Patikrit, now, on face value, okay, this is everyone that, or almost everyone that has a beef with America or America has a beef with is here. The North Koreans, okay, the Iranians. I mean, you take it, they're all here and they're all getting red carpet treatment. We are not the people who have a permanent beef. We are not a death to America country. So, how do we navigate this in the next 10, 12 hours? What's our goal here?
Well, Rishabh, you're absolutely right. I think whatever challenges we have with the United States right now is primarily with the Trump administration. I have always stated there is a huge divergence between what the White House claims and what the Wall Street actually wants. The Wall Street is heavily invested, committed, and optimistic about the Indian market. And if you look at their revenue projections for the next 10 years, they have to come from India and not from China or anywhere else. So that's pretty clear that we continue to remain the strategic partner of United States, and China would have to agree to that and accept and live with that. But at the same time, when you talk about Indo-China relationship, again, this is a realization that, look, we have huge areas of divergence, and there will be no let up on the guard when it comes to those areas, when it comes to the borders, or when it comes to the Pakistanis getting Chinese weapon systems. But I think India will no more complain about that, because the Indians will reciprocate by arming the Filipinos and the Vietnamese. And that is what the Chinese have realized, that India is not a pushover. India is not somebody you can do salami slicing with. And India does have the capacity to reach Shanghai and Shenzhen if the need be. So you would see an equilibrium reaching between India and China. There will be, as was probably mentioned in some of the Niti Aayog reports, they have advocated that allowing the Chinese at least to 24% stake in some of the Indian companies. You might see in the non-sensitive sectors, especially in renewable energy and some consumer durables, you might see a little more flexibility on Indian side in allowing the Chinese to invest. Whereas the critical structures, critical infrastructures, though, will be a complete no-go area. And it's pretty clear that I think in certain way I think it's more comfortable to deal with the Chinese because you know what they are. You know they are an adversary. Somewhere I think that dealing with the Americans have been more challenging. You don't know where they actually stand. You don't know whether they're a friend or an enemy or a friend.
Complicated times, for sure. Complicated times. We are at what it is. Xi Jinping making a point at the global stage that he's back and he is an influential figure representing the Chinese country, which is an influential figure. It is the world's second largest economy, and there's no wishing it away. So there are pros and cons to this across the board. I'm going to take a break and we continue this conversation with more breaking developments and more guests joining us on the other side. See you in a minute.